I have had in my hands for nearly 2 weeks and I played the game for a significant amount of time before. It even launched in addition to playing it previously before that in its early access success. Versions which is how I'm getting this review out so quickly, however, while a review would obviously never be sponsored, it's important. That you know that I did do a sponsored video for this game previously, however, with all of that out of the way, we can actually dive into this one and talk about it a little bit future. As I already mentioned, this game sees us controlling a band of mercenaries and moving them throughout the land, which has since been overrun with banditti, thievery, and is generally a pretty raw place these days following the collapse of an empire in the face of a plague, which is a nice place to start the story sections of this video, or more specifically I should say story scenarios throughout the entire game. Of Wartales, when we are on the sort of overland map, we will be traveling between six distinct regions. Each region has its own story. You can do this sort of independently of each other. These scenarios functionally act as what you might consider a main quest of sorts. They all do relate to each other a little bit, even if they are independent stories, however, due to the nature of how you can approach them. This is not really the type of game that has a proper ending. You kind of just finish doing everything there is possible to do, or you move on to a different playthrough with a different group of mercenaries in a different part of the world. So story-wise, the game is pretty much over when you decide you're done, and much of the gameplay and the rest of the stories kind of revolve around the emergence. Story around your mercenaries and their relationships with each other, as well as the various contracts you will be taking and across the land itself. So the game does like a sort of distinct narrative, though each region does have a story to tell you, which will usually see you picking a side depending on how you play these quests out, but understand the story here is more about your journey with your mercenaries than any particular narrative. However, in the world building sections we will go over a little more about all of the things they do to make an unequal and interesting world for you to move through, even if you are not the big hero first up. So we are going to talk game options when you actually go to fire up the game has a variety of voice. You can customize your individual playthrough, and the first thing you will do is pick your destiny, which is a set of sort of starting buffs for your party. Most of these are relatively minor and can be easily overcome in terms of negatives that they will grant you. However, at the start of this you will pick what kind of party you want, kind of what their background is, which will set your starting mercenaries to a particular class. So for the most part I would say pick what feels fun here, so it's dictating what your start is going to look like after that. You will pick region locked or adaptive exploration. This is a very big choice because you are deciding how the game is going to scale. On your first playthrough you are forced to start in an area called Tiltrine. However, as you play the game and unlock and explore other areas, you will pick up other starting points for future playthrough, and because of this the game will scale to you in both modes. However, how it scales is determined by these choices. Adaptive will make sure the game is always a challenge no matter what you do. Where is the region locked, we will see areas scale up to a limit, so to speak, also based on where you start a little bit, and when you go to which areas. However, in region locked there will come a point where you sort of just overlevel an area and it will become pretty much a breeze. to move through, because there is an upper limit to one those things. Can do this means that for every area, while it might be initially challenging, you will absolutely hit a breakpoint where you are just past the challenge that area has to offer. So for most people, I would say region locked is possible there where you want to go, but if you are looking for an ever-present challenge, adaptive can be found from there. So we have other options in terms of difficulty in game settings. For starters, the actual combat difficulty, which is sort of easy, normal, hard, as usual, and most of what this affects is the level and number of enemies. In comparison to you, though, I would say for each of them there does come a sort of breakpoint where you have got your troop and everything moving to a point where the difficulty is not so bad, so the higher difficulty can provide a very challenging start of the game. But all of those difficulties kind of just adjust the point at which the game is going to get relatively easy as you get more resources.